Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boys James, Rob, and Kevin, and we're going to be talking about the new Superman movie by James Gunn. This movie serves as the launching pad for the new DC movie universe. All three of us have saw the movie in some way, shape, or form. Uh, we all are at minimum general Superman fans, definitely comic fans to an extent, and definitely comic book movie fans. So we each have our own vantage point in terms of how we see comics, how we see the heroes, who's our favorite hero, and how we see the characters in movies and such. Sometimes we will agree on things, sometimes we will disagree, but in this case, we are going to focus on the movie at hand. This is an exciting time to be a movie slash comic nerd. So we were all pretty energized to see the movie. So I went and saw it last Sunday morning. I went by myself. So I was able to really focus on it and get a good glimpse of the things that I liked and disliked. So I hope to be able to share that with you guys. But before I get into that, um, Kev, James, how are you guys doing? Let's start with James. You doing all right, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good,
I know you've been looking forward to this episode, so you ready?
man. I'm ready as I'm ever gonna be, I guess.
All right, Kev, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. I'm actually really excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, I know, and for our listeners, again, Kevin is a professional actor, so he will have a vantage point that is coming very different from me and James as just fans of media. Kevin is coming from a slight professional point of view mixed with a entertainment, point of view. So just to put that out there, so that if there is a huge disagreement or we're seeing things from a completely different vantage point, it's likely going to come from that front. And we mean no disrespect to each other or anything like that, but just to set
We all like each other, guys.
just to set expectations. Because we I think we all generally feel the same, but just there's different notes that we differ on.
Yeah, I
So
don't think that this one's going to be divisive at all. Really, I
I
think
hope not.
we. I don't see why it would be.
I mean, because you got somebody on the top left corner who
Well,
and I
yeah,
see, like, I'm more like, yes, I have, my point of view, but I'm honestly, I guess, more neutral. Like being honest, like I'm just more like, because I just feel how I feel. But all right, intros aside, first question of the day: what did the film do well? And since it's going to be a real challenge for James to come up with that, I'm gonna start with him.
oh boy.
Um, I think it did well by setting the stage to open up a new universe.
Okay.
It gave us more players we haven't seen or accustomed to seeing on the big screen. Like I enjoy the aspect of being able to see these characters and who else they add on in the future. Like Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner, everybody's least favorite Green Lantern. Even the Green Lantern Corps themselves hate him. Um, Hawk Girl, interesting choice. I'm not mad at that, even for what people have to say about it. But it really just sets up for a wide and open Justice League, and I like that.
Okay. Any other positives that you have?
Mm, I would say there were some casting choices that I really enjoyed. Like they did a really good job with Lex Luthor. I like
Mm,
what they did with that.
okay. All right. Now I'm just trying to make sure you get all the positives out because I know there's not many. So just making
I
sure.
mean, for as light as the movie is, I just from a technical standpoint, I can't really say anything bad
Hmm.
about it per se. And particularly if we're talking about specific things, then maybe you might get a more disgruntled opinion. But overall, for the DCU, like I like the fact of having a Justice League with a wide variety of characters and a lighthearted tone.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go next, Kev, because I feel like you will have the most positive out of everybody.
Okay, that's fine.
Uh, so I enjoy that we do have um at least a movie, and that it's going into a direction in which we're going to get more content. Comic books, movies next to like sci-fi and action, which kind of blends the two, and of course fantasy along with that. I'm just happy that we're going to get something. Now for the film itself, I believe that it tried its very best to be positive, not to do a hard comparison, but people did feel that the last bunch of DC movies, in particular the Superman character, was a more dark in tone. So you had a more uplifting, positive messaging from that Superman, or from this Superman movie. You also have some comedy. I don't particularly care for it, but I think for some people who want that mixture of action, drama, comedy, you get that from this film. Um, as James said, I think that having the characters that they did have was good. At least the introduction of some of them. Uh, I believe they had a really good Lex Luthor. Crypto was okay in some moments. I believe that the film was actually shot pretty well. Um, and the soundtrack wasn't horrible. It was okay. So for me, those are my positives. And I also do feel like they went through the story pretty well. The movie didn't drag. It didn't take too less of time. Didn't take more time than it needed to. Seemed appropriate runtime for what we got. So yeah, those are my positives. So Kev, you got the floor, bro.
Yeah, I think you guys hit on a lot of it pretty well. I would add to what to some of what you were saying. I really feel like it was visually outside of, there was like some weird effects stuff that we'll talk about later, but I don't know. I felt like visually it was a treat outside of some wonky moments. I do like James Gunn's style as a director, admittedly more than as a writer, but he's very good behind the camera, plans his sequences really well. So I thought the cinematography was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the script is mostly well written, if a little bit maybe unspectacular. Like I feel like it was fine. Decent action sequences. I feel like it really nailed Superman.
Mm-hmm.
I'll save that for when we talk about the standout characters. But for me anyway, um, it was a really good interpretation of the character. It's one that gels with me, um, pretty much just as well as any other. But I don't know. I thought it really stood out. It's a great window into what we can expect. And with that, in this cinematic universe is going to come a lot of good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited, to see where it goes. This is a solid first outing. I think that this movie needed to work, and I think that it cleared that bar really well.
When you say needed to work, what do you mean?
I think that if the movie wasn't very good, people would have turned on it in a really, really, really big way.
Okay.
And the DCU getting off the ground, there's a lot of really tough questions that would have had to have been asked. If it didn't make the correct amount of money, if the audience and critical response isn't what it generally has been thus far, I think it would have been a really, really tough outing.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Well, switching gears, I'm actually going to flip two and three, just for transitional purposes. It just makes sense.
Okay.
So my next question is, what are the characters that stood out? And this could be good or bad. Um, James, I'm going to no. You know what? I'm a I'm gonna have Kev go first. I think he'll be more positive. So we're gonna go with you first, Kev.
Okay.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
Um, well, I think that the big three in this film worked very well. The big three being Superman, Lois Lane, and Lex Luthor. I feel like if you don't get the DNA of that trio correct, I don't think that you really have much of a film because they are, well, 99% Superman is the
Mhm.
lens that we see the story through, but those are the characters that we're meant to really connect with. And I felt that they did really well. I really liked the casting for all three, and I'm someone who
Mm.
wasn't, admittedly, not really familiar with David Corenswet's work. I've never seen him, to my knowledge, never seen him in anything, and I bought into him as Superman almost immediately.
Mm.
He felt, to me, he felt like Superman, and I think that some of that is in that this specific version of the character plays to his strengths, and also maybe controversial opinion, but it really shouldn't be a controversial opinion. The role of Superman is not terribly difficult to play, which is why there's really no actor, to me, and it seems to the public at large, like there's been no one that everyone was like, this guy sucks and we hate him. And
Mm.
that is usually a testament to how easy it is to play versus something like Batman, where there are versions of Batman that people absolutely cannot stand
Let's.
because it
Mm.
just doesn't meet kind of what's necessary. So I think that the bar for a good Superman is admittedly very low to clear, but I really enjoyed David Corenswet in this. He really endeared himself to me as someone who has never seen his work. Um, I really liked Rachel Brosnahan, I believe is her name, as Lois Lane. She is kind of exactly what you would want Lois to be. I think, and I feel pretty strongly, Lois Lane has been a casting choice that has not always gone over well.
Mm.
Um, like
I agree. I've said that multiple
it's
times.
that role seems to be a really tough one for screenwriters to write properly, and for actresses to bring out the Lois Laniness of her personality, all of her personality quirks, and I feel that she did. She acquitted herself really well, so I was very, very happy with that. And they really nailed the Lois and Clark relationship for me as well. I thought that that was
Really?
really strong.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoy that we come into an awkward point in their relationship where they've only been together for 3 months, so they're kind of starting to get serious, but they haven't had any of those real like Superman and Lois experiences thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the events of course, the actual movie. But
Jane, well, I
I
do have
felt
a
like that was
question. Since we're on that, I do have a question. If you'll
hmm,
entertain me,
yeah.
isn't Lois generally always head over heels for Superman? Like Superman separate Clark. That like before she knows that the two are the same. Am I wrong in that assumption?
It's one of those things where it is almost always the case, but not always, and hasn't always been. It hasn't always been done that way on screen either,
Mm-hmm. Right.
as far as like my knowledge goes back. But I
'Cause-
don't know. I don't know how that relationship works in this one. Like we don't know what the genesis of that
right.
is, which is one of my criticisms. I'll save for later. But
Well, that's
I,
probably one of the best things he did for himself when making this movie. Like you start him 3 years in, and whatever gripes you have about that, you have. But he eliminated a lot of issues for himself by starting like the how the relationship actually forms and how
yeah,
they
it does.
meet and things like that. Like you get to skip all the tough part about having
Yeah,
to
he
write
didn't
and show
have to
that on
finesse
screen.
exactly. Yeah, he didn't have to finesse it the way that others have had to, like give them that really strong reason to come together and also give them that spark right from the beginning, which is really a tough thing
Mm.
to do in really anything where actors have to have some kind of chemistry, because the chemistry is never going to be perfect when they first read, but you kind of can catch glimpses of something in that room. It's tough, which is why they get it wrong so often.
Well, I would say that, and then across the board, I think it's just a tough thing to do in a movie. Like 2 or 3 hours, I think that's hard to do, and you don't want to get away from like the core of your story to try to flesh out such a relationship. But
Yeah, and well, not to try to jump too far ahead, I actually think that's one of the weaker notes of the movie. If didn't
Interesting.
I didn't really like their relationship, and I didn't feel that spark as you guys are saying. I felt Lois was way
to
more
me, like, because
detached
it's
than
not
usual.
fresh.
Yeah, I felt Lois was
It
way
looks
more
and feels
detached
like
than
it's
usual.
not a fresh relationship. It looks like something in the middle of, you can't necessarily like pinpoint it, but it often reminds me of like how we describe Anakin and Padme. Like between whatever movie we're looking at, it's not much there else to go off of. Except we know we can pinpoint when they meet and then when they start having a romantic relationship.
I
You
thought
can't do that in
I
this
thought you
movie.
was about to say something else.
So,
But yeah. Okay. James, what characters stood out for you?
I mean, well, before I get into the other heroes, I would say I was very satisfied with that representation of Lex Luthor. I
Okay.
think they did an awesome job casting him. I think writing him, they did pretty good. I think the actor did good as well. There's nothing really I can take away from him there.
Hmm.
Um, and for me, the main comparison that I want to make or that I'm drawing to when I see this film, it would have to be the Justice League animated series. It came on the Cartoon Network however many years ago.
Hmm.
And then my other closest reference would be Smallville.
There
Even
we
though I
go.
wasn't the biggest
Yeah,
fan of that show, I did see a lot of it.
agreed.
And Tom Welling would be my reference for Clark Kent.
Hmm.
Yeah, mostly it would just be the heroes.
So you're saying
And
Superman and the Justice Gang.
right.
Okay.
But it'd be more a lack thereof for Superman, or what accuracy or what piece of media or lore that he's actually from, or that they're borrowing from.
Okay.
Because a lot of it I really don't see, or it's a hit and miss for me for what it reminds me of. But mainly,
Because he's supposed to be all-star, right?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know.
I think that
I
this
mean,
is adapted from All-Star.
right. But for me personally, when I see it and I'm watching it, and people are talking about the feel and having a comic book movie,
Hmm.
he reminds me of Legion of Superheroes, Superman. Talking about the 31st century of heroes, they go back in time and they get a teenage Clark Kent before like, he knows who he is, he knows what he's capable of. He just hasn't walked across that threshold in the story.
Hmm.
A very
Interesting.
young, spry, very optimistic,
Spry. You
very
spry.
flippant in his words, very, very boyish. Like the suit has to tighten around him. Like he's not muscular. He can't fit inside of it. That's the feeling and the image that I get when I watch the Superman.
Okay.
It's not a guy that's been doing it for a little while. He reminds me of a Superman that hasn't done it at all yet. But he's around a bunch of people who get it and who do.
Okay.
Concerning like
Mhm.
Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, and Mr. Terrific, they just seem so much more mature in their heroism. It makes them seem teenagerish almost. It reminds me of a different iteration of Superman that isn't as adept.
Okay.
Yeah, where
So
I
in the same breath, that's my like and dislike about the characters. It's like they work hand in hand, but it's odd for me.
it's tough because where I totally agree with you is that this does not feel like a year 3 Superman.
Hmm. It
I
does
think
not.
I think that going for a Superman that's in year 3, they missed the mark on, I think, where we would all kind of expect him to be 3 years into his career
Yep.
as like this, because you're 3 years in, but you've never had to deal with 2 countries squabbling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's his first like international crisis. So I feel like if they had made this a Superman that's like just coming off of, which I almost thought they were going to do, but like he's almost coming off of his first big, what would be his first like big event, and showing us a Superman who has done this before, but
No,
still isn't
like the
perfect.
only bit of grace we get in that is when the people of Baravia are chanting for him, and
Well,
the little kid,
yeah,
the little boys
let's not
planting
jump.
a flag for him and
Let's
stuff.
say let's not jump too far here.
Yeah,
Like, like
yeah,
no,
but
I mean, fair enough, but I mean, while we're here, I mean, and besides him just saying the words or the message that we would get from Superman, it just doesn't sound like it's coming from him.
I
Yeah.
think I think for me, and part of why it works, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm way off, is that this movie, in a lot of ways, and I think his character specifically, it feels like a love letter to Christopher Reeve, where we're
I can
doing
say, yeah, I feel that.
like we're going back to the cinematic roots of Superman, with this guy is kind of, or with Clark Kent, where this guy is like super geeky and
Yeah.
dorky, and that's what that looks like in 2025.
Hmm.
Where I will say we're missing some of the finesse, and what I hope happens in his next outing is that we have a more distinct line between the persona of Clark Kent versus when he is the public face of Superman.
Yeah. Especially
I mean,
like when you're already 3 years in, right? It felt like in some, well, not trying to get too far ahead, but it just felt like in some moments he just really was not prepared. And that's a really hard pill to swallow for a year 3 Superman who should be used to this by now.
He reads as immature sometimes.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
not sometimes. A lot of the times.
like what was so tough for me, and I grappled with it the first couple minutes that I was at the theater. I took it in, and I don't know if James, if you feel similarly. I was like, this is the first time in my life I'm going into a brand new Superman movie, and Superman or Clark Kent would be a peer. Like I would look him in the eyes, we'd be the same age. And I was like, as far as that, like I don't think that I read as that immature, in spite of my great love for like comic book movies and Star Wars and all of that. Like I'm still, I when I'm out in places or on a job, I still present a certain forward face because that's what the duty requires of me. And it felt like there wasn't any of that present. It felt like he was just Clark
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Some
yes, and the
it,
only defense of that is when, or the only defense that people try to give for this iteration and what it does separate itself is when Lois is interviewing him and tries to interview Superman. And there's a moment where he leans up and he has a different look on, and his tone changes a certain little bit here and there. But other than that, in that moment, he ultimately responds like Clark Kent to me. Like the
Yeah.
way he responds in the rest of the movie when he has the cape on and when he doesn't is all the same.
yeah,
Even in his very last little monologue to Lex Luthor at the very end, you got the light shining behind his head so bright you can't even see him. It's just the message and the words are Superman. The colors and the tone behind him in the movie are Superman.
Yeah.
But his conviction does not sound like he sounds unsure when he speaks,
Yeah. And
even
that,
to his girlfriend. So when you're talking to us in the audience as our Superman, it's just not there for me.
yeah.
so what I was feeling, and we,
Well,
I think we
I think we're jumping too far ahead. Hold on, because I want to finish up the characters that stood out portion.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm just going to say quickly. Mr. Terrific stood out for me. Um, I believe that his presence was needed to really push the movie forward in a more intelligent way, because you had somebody in Lex Luthor who was super smart, super calculating, and Superman was not meeting that portion of the of I guess opposing Lex. So Mr. Terrific was a perfect placement for that for me. So you had the brains portion and I guess the sci-fi portion of it being handled by Mr. Terrific, while
Mhm,
Superman took care of the other notes. Um,
mhm.
he was named Guy Gardner, stood out a little
Yep.
bit. Comedy. What we can expect from him.
Really gave us somebody that we don't like, that character nobody likes.
Yeah,
It gave us somebody not to like,
yeah,
but
just
you like him, quote
But
unquote.
he's also likable because it's Nathan Fillion.
yeah. That's what I'm getting at. The actor is what makes it enjoyable, honestly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jimmy Olsen was he was
Oh Lord.
He was
Oh,
slaying it, dog.
yes.
He was
Now that
slaying it, dog.
I forgot all about old Jimmy. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you for bringing him up.
yeah.
There's no way, man. No way. He's never
But
in
he
the history.
worked.
What iteration of
But it
Superman
worked.
Jimmy
Is the
pulling like that?
but
Hey, man.
he's pulling.
Sometimes you got to make a change for the greater good.
But it worked.
Devastatingly player. Like,
Jimmy,
bro,
Jimmy
what?
saved,
Jimmy ain't
Jimmy
never been
saved
that
the
player
day,
in his
man.
life.
Hey, we see you, Jimmy.
Big
Yo,
big D cubed energy, bro. Like just
yep,
big
yo,
D
Man,
cubed,
man.
yo. But
Shorty on the line crying.
Drowning in it,
Like,
man.
yeah.
Jimmy.
Drowning in it.
And I'm trying to think of who else was a really good placement, or a character that stood out. I guess you could say Crypto, but his was more for comedy relief, you know, which at sometimes it was appropriate, other times it was not. But having the addition of Crypto did, I know for a lot of people, it brought a real bright spot to the movie. For me, it served as more of a distraction, because like just being honest, but when I go into the movie, the very first, you know, uh, part of the movie is us being introduced to Crypto out the break, and I had seen this intro scene all throughout the media for the past few, couple of months now.
Mhm.
So by then I'm like, all right, this is kind of dragging now because you've already introduced me. But he
They
was
made a
the
big mistake showing him too early.
yeah, and I definitely agree with that. But that whole scene was just dragged out a little bit, and then it feels like it picks up once we're in there. But those, just from my memory, are the ones that truly stand out, uh, in a more, especially more in a positive note. But where we seem to be, and where we're going to be probably spending the most energy on, is where they missed the mark. And I guess in a way we can mix in what characters need work, because I feel like that can go hand in hand, because we're saying they need work as more of a missed opportunity type of
Hmm.
point of view. So Kev, since you were really cooking with something, and I want you and James to really get into that portion uh, of where they missed the mark, and so that you guys can get back into the organic conversation you were having before I had to
Yeah.
finish out that last portion.
So we where I think we really missed the mark is, and it was one of my fears going in. It just ended up like the rest of the movie that was around it. I ended up liking so much that I can almost forgive it. But it's like I told you guys, I would really prefer for the next one. I would love to see someone not named James Gunn do the writing, because I really think that he did a poor job of balancing the sort of the levity
Mm-hmm.
of the situation juxtaposed with the drama. Like he undercut the character in moments that were wildly inappropriate. Like he's giving this great speech to Lex at the end, and like it's
Mm-hmm.
hitting like he's doing the Superman thing, and he gets immediately undercut by Crypto deciding that in that moment he was going to beat the shit out of Lex. And it's like that moment, it felt like the Avengers when Loki is in the middle of going on his tirade and then Hulk just grabs him and
Yeah.
proceeds to
Mm-hmm.
bash him into the ground. That scene, in my opinion, works because we're undercutting the villain, and what Hulk does effectively says to him, bullshit, we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's talking about, you dull creature, I'm a god, blah, 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 blah. We don't give a shit. If they had done that after the monologue, and Lex is then responding with more of his, because that's the first time in the movie that they have a meaningful clash, because this is their clash of ideals, because they can't fight physically, because Superman will just beat the shit out of him because Lex doesn't have his suit yet. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the one meaningful time that our primary protagonist and the primary antagonist are in the same room. It's a collision of wills, and you undercut Superman.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a good screenwriting reason why that would happen. I think that came across as kind of the most amateurish thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And just, if you let that moment breathe, and I know that we don't want to get into too much comparison, but if you examine the ending scene of Man of Steel, where Superman is talking to the colonel, and then the young private is next to him, and she's like freaking out because she's like, oh, Superman is so hot. That moment worked in that movie because they waited for Superman to be gone. He's done giving his, like, I'm as American as it gets, I'm going to help you, just not in the way that you want, blah, 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 blah. He leaves, and then we get a joke. It
Mm-hmm.
allows the scene to breathe. We let our character get the message across, and then we can have a beat that's a bit more lighthearted and a movie that's a little bit darker.
Yeah.
But I think that really the tone, that movie wanted to skew, just give me 20% less quips
Mm-hmm.
and humor, and I think that this would have been a perfect movie. But I think weakness of the director slash writer is not being able to help kind of that inclination to make a joke instead of just letting it breathe. That was one of my big concerns, and it was unfortunate that it hit in such a big way at such a pivotal moment for me within the
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Yeah. All right, James. The floor is yours, brother. I know you got a lot to unload. You got your notes ready?
I mean, now I'm leaving it more to have a more of an open conversation
Okay.
instead of trying to pick this thing apart.
Okay.
But overall, the movie itself is fine. Like
Oh,
we could go back and forth about or being technical all we want about. I think the movie did okay for what it wanted to do.
okay.
It was a lighthearted, airy, quote unquote funny movie, depending on what your humor is, whether if you liked it or not. Um, for me overall, it just comes down to the interpretation of Superman. I feel like there was just a lack of confidence in his character that I didn't appreciate in his dialogue and how he carried himself in certain scenes.
Yeah. Like,
I feel like they
I
did
agree
a
with you.
good job of trying to keep the comic book movie theme, quote unquote, but I just think it's unfair to the film and then the character itself in that film where you're specifically writing things in to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
Like we understand what type of Superman movie this is and what we're getting and how he goes out of his way to save people. But him picking up the squirrel and doing all like it it feels a little bit over performative in ways. So like when you finally get to the last scene of him monologuing and having his Superman moment, it is undercut by Crypto doing some crypto things that he's done throughout the entire movie.
Right.
It just kept a constant tone of flippancy that I just didn't appreciate. I guess when I was looking for from my perspective when I'm looking at Superman. Now for everything else bodes well for itself in those moments because a lot of those other characters aren't supposed to be taken in the same light that Superman is.
Mm-hmm.
maybe I just looking at the symbol too literal, and my fandom of him a little bit too literally, because of what his symbol represents and what his character has always been across media, especially growing up and the kinds of Superman that I've been exposed to. But
Well,
maybe in future products we might get something a little bit more confident or mature Superman in himself. But as it stands right now, he didn't appear to me to be somebody that was 3 years in. He doesn't seem to be as confident as I would like them, especially
Yep.
when he's speaking after a W.
yeah.
After he
Yeah, man. It's
Which is
really tough when you try to eliminate the problem of the origin story, but then the point that you choose to say we're going to start right here is just a little bit too far off of the beginning.
well,
And it's because if he said he's been Superman for like 11 months, I'd be like, okay,
yeah,
maybe.
but to James' point, it's also very jarring when you got this guy that isn't confident, but after his first, ass whooping, he's in complete denial about the ass whooping. Like,
Oh,
I
and,
was wondering what we was going to get to that part of the conversation.
well, because I'm just going to dip my hand all the way into it. I really didn't like the film. And if we were not recording this podcast, I would say that I wish I never had to watch it.
wow.
Because it was just that bad for me. I don't like there is a cartoon Justice League that we all watched when we were younger. And as an adult, it started irritating and grating my nerves that Superman kept being put on his back. And you've come to find out it's because he's essentially holding back. And that's what actually makes the stories move along somehow, because if he completely cuts loose, these enemies are done for just like that. But it's like he's going along with the song and dance just for whatever reason. And of course, the number one person that irritates me the most in those cartoons is um, the Martian Manhunter, because he's always like, oh, and finding himself
Yo,
in situations that are crazy. Like it annoys me that you have the ability to have things phase through you, and you start out phasing, and then all of a sudden you stop, and then you get taken out. Like, but why did you stop phasing, bro? Like, it's not like you were tired.
Energy blast, electrocution,
And that
anything.
and that's what I felt like with this Superman, is that I understand that he's supposed to be 3 years and oh. That's what you tell us. That's what you tell us. But then in this fight, where it's, I guess if you want to say it like this, it's the fight of his life, because this is essentially what they make it appear like, is when he suffers his first big defeat, which means like this is the most opposition that he has ever had. And what becomes very, very, very hard for me to swallow is that he was getting his ass beat, not just by Lex Luthor calling out commands, but by college students inputting those commands. So you are not fast or strong enough to hit your counterpart. They have time to verbally communicate with each other, input the stuff into whatever computer, whatever you want to call it, and then that thing just does it. The clone just does it. And it's like, you aren't experienced enough to find your way around that until you get to the end, with Crypto taking out, I guess, those orbs. I don't know what, I really didn't get a good look at them, but the things that were pretty much surrounding them. That
they were relaying what was going on in the fight so that the people could react.
Exactly. And it's just that whole thing is like, again, yes, I guess you could say it's very comic booky, but it just fell flat for me. And I just hated that he struggled so much, and that it didn't seem like he was using his brain. Like, he seemed dumb as nails, and Superman is not dumb as nails. He is one of the most intelligent beings in the DC universe. Sure, he's one of the strongest too, but he is no dummy. Like, he gets into the lab and figures shit out. This one was just, like, I did not understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then this relationship with Lois. one of their first interactions or first big interactions that gives us a point of view as an audience is him having a hard time answering tough questions. And I'm just like, one, why is year 3 the time that you are just now having to have tough questions asked to you and you just kind of don't have the capacity to work
Well,
through
because they said that he's been interviewing himself
it? Yeah, well, yeah,
to
well,
make,
fair point.
to make it easy for Clark
And
Kent
then
to get the
3
story.
years of that, there should have been way more like timeout. That does. Why are you the only one that interviews and why are you the only one that sees them? Like, yeah, they're asking those questions now, but 3 years
Can
of
I
that,
can I defend it really quick?
if you must.
And this can be, again, because when people don't write things, you as the audience, like, it becomes your burden to justify it to yourself however you can.
Mm-hmm.
My thought process there was, if anyone else was writing about Superman up to that point, they do make it seem like this international incident that has gone on has been his first time really stepping outside of America and doing anything. And within the country, there's only so many things that Superman can do to really mess it up. Like, if he's just fighting kaiju monsters all the time, like he was in this, or like thwarting some robots and Lex Luthor, I can see why he wouldn't be adjusted to it, because he would be mostly the subject of like puff pieces talking about how awesome he is by anyone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's how I
but
rationalize that.
I'm not letting James Gunn off the hook by doing my own
That's
set
no,
of
and that's fair,
yeah,
and I think that's fair.
and I'm
And
not
then since we're on the subject, there's also a level of vanity that comes with this
yeah
because he's being very, as Clark Kent and as Superman, when he's at the Bugle, he's being very vain and disingenuous about himself, which
yeah
is very uncharacteristic of the character. And I
ex-
don't care what iteration you're pulling it from.
no yeah
There's no
absolutely
way is Superman, maybe in some type of humorous way, is he trying to defend the fact that the first on-screen scene of him, he's beating a bloody piss to the point where he can't even whistle properly.
bro,
Oh no!
asthmatic
Oh no! Superman didn't get beat up. Like,
Darth
no, you got
Vader
your ass whooped
breathing
so bad they didn't even show it.
Darth Vader breathing like
And then in the interview with Lois, like how people use this as an example to try to showcase the split between Clark Kent and Superman. As he leans up, he gets a more serious tone of himself and sticks his chest out when he speaks, and he still just ends up being this unconfident, flippant, almost teenager-esque in his responses, like very almost immature. Like, it doesn't
yeah
just come across as the stoic hero that we know, and not that everything he does is stoic, but man, even in the comics, when Superman speaks, when he says something, especially in
it commands
the
respect
heat of the moment,
and the only person that
when his
pushes
voice is respected and it is heard.
yeah
I don't. It's,
and
it's not a lot of times in this movie where his voice is respected and heard at the same time.
yeah and I definitely agree with you on that and that was definitely one of the more annoying things is like how I going to take this superhero serious outside of his capabilities and potential if everybody around him doesn't seem to take him serious so the
Can I
justice
defend it?
you what do we call what is the term when people just be inserting their own head canon there we go what's the head canon Kev?
Oh no, for me, this one isn't. I just think that it's you guys having a problem with this and me not. I think is more reflexive of our kind of the treatment that we would prefer Superman to get. I don't think that it's wrong to want more stoicism or any of those things, but he's. I think that we're watching a couple just having fun with one another in the beginning. I don't think that he's taking himself seriously when he puffs out the chest and tries to have this like that super
No, that's
demeanor
the problem though,
because
because
we see later in the movie
he's
that that's
trying to.
not what he does. I think he's a dude who's having a little bit of fun with his girlfriend. He thinks that she's going to lob him softball questions, and then what you're watching is the breakdown of them having the first real disagreement of their relationship, and also he was trying to help people, and also he didn't think about the consequences
I,
because up till now there haven't been any. So what you're watching is a guy who is being vulnerable with his girlfriend and is kind of internally like, well, we're together. You were with me when I did what I did, but you didn't voice any disagreement then because she was wearing the supportive girlfriend. I think they have in the conversation. He's like, but you feel this way about this too. And she's like, yeah, but I can't prove it. And I also can't act on it. So how I feel doesn't really matter. So I feel like in the pillow talk, things were kind of one
and
way. And
I'm
she's like, yeah, this
yeah,
government is really oppressive. And then, but where rubber meets the road, this is a moment where he feels unsupported by his partner, who knows how hard he tries and how hard he works to protect humanity.
and
And
I'm
I think that
so
the
glad.
conversation is infinitely more about what's going on in their relationship. It very quickly stops being about what they are actually talking about.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because that's another criticism. Because Lois and Clark are supposed to have a very strong bond and a very strong love. At their first sign of having a disagreement, albeit professionally, she's ready to call it quits. That is insane to me. She admits that she was about to or considering breaking it off with him.
Well, she's
And
like, are you talking about when she says, like, I I knew this wouldn't work. I'm really bad at relationships
yes.
and
And
what have you.
yeah, and then she admits later on in the film that she was like close to breaking up with him. Like she used the term like break it off with him or at some point in the movie. And I thought that that was crazy because most
I don't
iterations.
remember. I don't remember that.
Do you remember that,
I,
James?
I thought it was more towards while they were still in the apartment. She
Now
was like, ah,
she
you
had said it to I forgot who she said it to, and but she was like because I think somebody said like your boyfriend or something. I don't know, but she
yeah.
was
Oh, they were like, what about that guy you're dating? And she was like, I don't know. We're in like a weird place,
yeah,
and
but she had mentioned
or he's like he's weird or something.
yeah, but that was just something that irritated me. Let's see. Moving on, I'm just gonna just get like close this up. Not like for y'all, but like close up my points of what I had an issue with. Yeah, had an issue with the fact that people, you know, it was really hard to take him serious, and that reflected in the film, even down to the funniest point for James at the very end, where he is, you know, seeing his cousin for the first time, and she's like, "Thank you for watching him, bitch." Like it's just like, yo, that sums up the disrespect and the disregard that he has gotten in this film, and it's just that is not like the only person that tends for me that I see as like really pushing back against him that is an ally in that way is not even like on joke time, but just on some I'm gonna tell you some stuff that's gonna hurt your ego is Batman. Batman's the only real person, you know, and sometimes Diana, like Diana will, you know, check him sometimes too. But the number one person that does that is Batman. And it's just so hard. And to your point, Kevin, with his speech, as much as you feel like that was like an inspiring note, it fell flat for me because he doesn't even look like he believes what he's saying, and he seems so like, as James said, unsure of himself. And I do the same thing as you do, and I don't know the answer, and I have to figure it out. And it's just like, bro, you know trying to stand
It
up for
didn't.
yourself? Are you crying? Like what are we
and
doing?
Yeah,
that's
it didn't come
and that's
across
the
to me at
crazy
all
part
that way.
about it because, like Kevin said, if we let that moment have air and crypto doesn't undercut him, everybody's just looking at each other like, is he trying to convince us or him?
Exactly. It felt like he was trying to convince himself. And that like because his mannerisms, it did not exude confidence. Yes, we are supposed to buy that he is trying to reach Lex by trying to like level the playing field with him. Like, yes, I'm the superpowered being, but I go through things just like you. That's essentially what he's trying to do. But it comes off as real whiny in that he isn't really sure of himself. Like it's just the tone in which he said it. It did not come off as confident when he's saying it. Like in that
And I
moment,
It doesn't at all. In most of his moments when he's talking, he doesn't sound confident in what he's saying. He
yeah.
doesn't sound completely sure. It's
And
the
then to
trust.
sum it
shakiness
up,
behind it.
yeah, and then to sum it up, just
Like
like
the
Kev said,
just because the words and the message itself, when it's written down and you can read it, it said, yes, that sounds like what Superman would say. But when you actually hear the sound, The
Yeah.
tonal sound of it is completely unsure and uncertain.
Yeah. It
I don't want
just,
an uncertain, unsure Superman that gets his ass beat.
and that's what bothers me is that, like, I guess in large people feel like he exuded hope in that way. I like it. I'm being for real with the audience. I'm being for real with y'all. If this dude was real and we're talking about, there's real Earth heroes on it, I'm not following behind him. Even like the most unserious moment. Oh my God. And this one really bothered me. There is a alien threat in the background, and he's in the apartment building having a therapy session with Lois.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, what are we what kind of, like, what are we doing? It just seemed like the movie was trying to make a mockery or a joke of itself at that point. Like, yes, I'm supposed to buy that he's so bothered by what, the events that shattered his, I guess, belief in where he came from and what he was there to do. I get it, but choose something else to get him to behave that way, because to me, regardless of, if you feel like he's supposed to be a goofy Superman or a serious Superman, if there is a threat, he is fighting, unless he is hurt or dying. And even then, he will choose to face certain death as opposed to, finding an easy way out or finding a way out. The fact
That
that
is
he was,
true.
yeah, the fact that he's sitting up here getting a therapy session with somebody that's looking to break up with him, of all things, it just bothered me. And I'm just
I
like,
think
yeah. So that
I think
sums it up for me.
it's really hard to have a conversation about this particular take on the character without diving into not like political stuff, because the political stuff in the movie is what it is and it's very, very clear cut, but kind of like the more like social aspects of it, because what James Gunn has done with this iteration of the character, at least I feel, has been a deconstruction of what masculinity is,
Mm-hmm.
which I think, like, once I went back and I thought about the movie in that way, things worked for me that the second time that I saw it, that didn't work for me the first time.
Then
So,
can I offer my own headcanon or my own,
sure, sure.
and it's real short. Do that
No,
with
go ahead.
do that with an actual human character or another character, but don't do that with him. Not him.
That's fair, but also the character has been so many different things in so many other properties that I feel like it's very hard to do Superman wrong in like a way that just totally, like, I don't see it, or I guess just for me, because again, I think that different different versions of it have focused on different aspects of his character and bringing that to the forefront. But the idea, I like that it challenges the idea that masculinity is stoicism, is you always know the exact right thing to do all the time, is that you don't struggle. And I feel like I liked that this movie shows you can lose, you can get the absolute shit beaten out of you, which he does in the events that happen right before the opening credits, right? He loses for the first time. He then has Crypto drag him back to the Fortress of Solitude. He heals, and then what does he do? He doesn't wait, he doesn't mope, he doesn't do anything. Smile on his face. He's like, well, I got to go back. And I think the one robot's even trying to tell him, like, you literally just lost. And there's no reason why he should believe that he is going to win. But he gets up and he does it anyway. And every time something terrible happens to him in the movie, he gets up and he deals with it. And I think that that's I think it's something that is healthy for young boys and young men to see. And I think it's a brave choice to conduct it that way, but I like it when writers make interesting decisions. So I totally gelled with it, and I
Oh,
liked
yeah,
it
we know that, Ryan
for
Johnson.
those reasons.
I mean, well, the thing is, it's not about the the lack of stoicism or confidence. It's just when you're trying to do those things, do them the right way.
So what
It's
I'm
not because
saying
they're
is,
missing, it's this like when you're trying to have those moments, they're not good.
Because let me ask you this, Kev, and I
yeah,
want you to be 110% honest with me.
yeah.
If you're a Green Lantern and you have a ring and the Justice League is forming, are you getting behind this Superman as your leader?
I would say me as the person that I am, yes, for a few reasons.
Mm.
One is he's still impossibly stronger than me. Yeah, he gets to be the leader. That's number one. Any
Oh man.
superpowered human being, I don't care who it is, I'll follow you. You are exponentially more powerful than me.
Oh my god.
I can immediately, I'll file in right behind you. But also, I find him to be, he is the most human Superman has ever been. I think we really blurred the lines here where he doesn't feel very alien, but I guess Superman really never does feel very alien
Not
outside
even
of watching
Reeve?
him do.
Not even in even Reeves Superman?
Did he feel alien to me?
No,
Not.
did he feel human?
Did he feel human? Yes, he felt human, not as human as Corenswet. I think that Corenswet's the most human Superman. He carries all of his human failings kind of inform everything that he does. It doesn't feel like, and I think that's why I like it
What
when they
human
flip.
failings? Expound upon these failings.
Like there are moments where
You ain't
he's
right,
not.
James.
There are moments where he's not overly confident, and when he speaks, he is sometimes trying to coax himself into, I have to do this, like it's got to be me. But I think that that's also, again, that's kind of what being a man is. You get shit on endlessly.
Mhm.
There's really not a lot of places that you can go for support, and still the world expects you to put one foot in front of the other, suck it up, and deal with it. And he is like the healthiest version of, like, no, he's not always supremely confident. He's still, I guess we're supposed to, he's green because clearly he's not managing this situation as optimally as other Supermen may have.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It gels with me. It gels with me. I find him incredibly relatable, and that's why I would be more likely to follow the dude who's openly like, "Hey, man, I'm doing my best here. We don't have the answers. Like, we're just trying." I'm much more likely to follow that than super stoic dude who's probably not going to speak to me, if but very flippantly. I don't know. I really, really, really love him as Superman. I
Ugh.
thought that that was something that was done very well. It could have been better because, again, in as positive as I am about the movie, I really, and you guys were with me when I was live watching Man of Steel. Again, I get why that version of the character is so well loved. I love it too. It's not perfect to me because I think it misses on some fundamental things. I think this one does too. They're really very much the same to me, just on opposite ends of a spectrum. And how you gel with where they sit on that spectrum is entirely going to inform how you feel about it. That's why I said, like you said, Rob, that you pretty much hate this movie. And I'm like, I can see that. Because again, I know what you like from Superman. So when I was watching it, I was like, he's not going to like this. But
Yeah.
but it hits enough of the right notes for me that I'm like, a lot of what we are criticizing comes down to who wrote it.
Mhm.
One day we may get a day where he can't oversee all of this while also being in the weeds on like a 7-month shoot of one of these big blockbusters. Which is
Mhm.
why I've said, like, I really hope we get to see how this functions without James Gunn. Because I think if you remove some of the Gunnisms and the quippiness, because he was a lot like,
I mean,
he gave a
I'll
lot of
push back on
Star-Lord.
you there, Kev, because there is supposed to be a level of this slapstick humor because superheroes do that. Like it's
Yeah,
in the like
I don't think that it
from
was
any
handled with
iteration
a
from
gentle
DC
hand.
to Marvel, they are quote unquote funny. So like you're gonna have a lot of this mixing up into their stories and into action and into their drama. It's how you handle the other stuff is what's so important. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I keep trying to reiterate again. It's not about being stoic or being more of it than you are the corny, relatable guy. It's about when it's time to have that moment and you're having it. I don't believe it. I don't believe the actor is believing it because he doesn't sound like it. The character doesn't sound like it. And then in your own movie, your own scene, it doesn't sound like it because you cut it. You undercut it with a corny joke.
And I
Yeah,
guess for some people
I
that
can't
So
works.
that's what I mean.
stand
Like
the
for the
undercutting.
character, if it's supposed to be a Superman movie, tonally, contextually, it's not confident. The character and then the movie itself, and then like the endings. I was saying like it got two different endings, but like his last little monologue, and then when his cousin shows up, the endings for me like it's the culmination of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel again because I can gel with some of what went on and I can see the vision for what they're going for. I just think that you mentioned how other superhero films do it. Yes, they do. But the difference between like Joss Whedon's Avengers and a James Gunn Superman has to be bigger than what it was, and we have to wield those moments the right way. You can have quips, but the failing of the writer is that he doesn't always know, in my opinion, when he needs to stop. James Gunn is great at, again, I don't know how you guys felt about The Suicide Squad. Not Suicide Squad, that movie was awful. But The Suicide Squad, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it works for me because it's James Gunn doing what he does well. He can write assholes who are supposed to be kind of funny incredibly well. He made incredible bones for Clark Kent and Superman, but it doesn't fully stick the landing because I don't think that he has enough creative restraint to know when is this moment going to be incredibly funny and when do we let the scene breathe, because in a lot of his movies we don't really let anything breathe and we rush from quip to quip to quip,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because that was really the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
We were sprinting from joke to joke to joke, and it doesn't, even if the humor is funny, all it takes is one misplaced joke and the whole thing comes down like a house of cards.
I mean, I feel like that's the issue with the ending scene with Superman and Lex. This inspiring moment, even if I don't buy it, but it's a moment that others buy, and you
Yeah, it's
undercut it.
completely undercut.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you undercut it with a very unserious moment, and then
yeah.
at the very very end, the cousin thing, and it's just.
Yeah, we got to talk about that, man, because that
but but again,
we're in
yeah, go ahead.
we seem to be in an incredible minority on this, by the way. So I see nothing but positivity and like praise for Millie Alcock's outing as Supergirl in like within Superman,
That's so
and then a
crazy.
lot of excitement for what's to come. Would I have cast Millie Alcock? Probably not.
Yeah, I'm
Given
not
the
impressed
other
by that
stuff
casting.
I've seen her in, I don't love it. I also, part of me has a lot of disdain for British actors playing American icons,
Yeah.
especially when British people are not as giving creatively with with the things that they've created because they feel like culturally it kind of belongs to them. But that's a separate issue. I just, man,
Ooh,
you can
talk about it. Shit.
you can characterize pretty much you can characterize any character however you want as long as it works. People will forgive a lot of stuff. People will be willing to try out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What's really hard for an audience is that you do not get a second chance at a first impression.
That's right.
Even knowing the Supergirl or light familiarity with Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, I believe the comic run is called, I think that going for, or what seems to be portrayed as a drunk party girl, is a very strong choice to make. And I know that it didn't really land for me. I did not care for the, what was it? Thanks for watching my dog, bitch.
Hmm.
The
I
the
Thanks
the
for
line
watching
is
them, bitch.
thanks for watching it, bitch. But I keep it the word dog in it for reference, so people know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, that's a really strong way to start with
Yeah.
a character. And who he could make the Supergirl movie. It could be the greatest movie of all time. We don't know because we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
What I can say, and I think it's totally fair, is that I do not at all care for the dynamic between the two of them that was presented. I think that that is a line that never needed to be in a Superman. It didn't need to be in any movie, really. I wouldn't care for it if he was in her movie and she did it. I don't know, man. It's a really strong perspective, and it's going to be that movie is going to have to hit a lot of correct notes to get me on track.
Well, that kind of dips into really the last portion of real quickly of where we are in terms of, is this a good start for the rebooted DC movie universe? And if I take in, your point of view, because that's like the last thing that we get, right? The very last
Mhm.
thing we get, while we're about to exit exit the movie theater or close down your laptop because other people chose not to go to the movie theater. But it's so
And the way you just outed me out like
nah, but the way, for me, I'll come from it from two perspectives. I think for the general public, for people who are easily swayed, this movie was what they say it's what they wanted, what they expected, and they're happy. So for those people, this is a good launching point, and they're excited. For people like me, like I may have one other movie in me, and then like because this one just did not impress me. Again, I have no desire to watch it again. I literally went and watched Man of Steel again and got upset all over again that we got here. Um,
Totally fair.
and so, for me, I think it's going to, like, it's two different point of views. Realistically, it's going to be successful, but personally, I'm just uninterested. I'm barely interested for what comes next. And if that doesn't hit well for me, I'm completely off, and I'm okay with that. What about you guys?
So I have an incredibly long leash. So what I will say is I think that this movie is at least as good a start for a cinematic universe as Man of Steel. Like, I think that it's a little bit uneven. I think it gets a lot right. I think it gets a lot wrong. Realistically, again, I think it's going to be successful just because of how kind of like fan communities
Yeah.
work now.
Hmm.
Is that you're going to have people who very much are in love with James Gunn, a man that they have never met before in their entire lives, and they'll support everything that he does because they like him as a director.
Hmm.
And I think that that's totally fair. I'm excited to see what comes next. I'm very, very, very nervous about Supergirl. I'm excited to see kind of what they think of next. I'm excited to see how this world evolves from like a film style perspective,
Hmm.
because now there's such a range. Because if Superman is going to be something that we kind of hit like peak corny and like comic booky, there's a lot of room for a lot of directors to play with a lot of different tones within this universe, and I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm also, and this is not to be negative, and I don't think that I've been a jerk about it up to this point, I really kind of don't want to see another James Gunn written thing, because I feel like for as much as he gets it, he doesn't always get it. And I would really like to see some other takes on writing the character now that it's established, because I do think that I didn't get to say this earlier on. I think that the screenplay is probably one of the weaker elements of this movie. And I think in trying to put us into month 3, there's a lot of pacing issues that come up, and the plot. Going into that movie, I felt like I got pushed into a pool. Almost like I just taking in so much information. So I'm excited to see how other people handle it going forward. I think is what's most exciting for me.
Okay. James, same question to you.
Well, I think foundationally, maybe the movie, it might age a little worse than people might think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think as it opens up for the DCU, it gives them a foundation to do whatever they want. With how you opened up your Justice League or Justice Gang and the characters you chose to insert into the Superman movie. And then even your middle ground characters like Metamorpho and stuff like that. As long as you keep having things like that, and you're talking about introducing your Batman and how you're going to do it, like you have ample an opportunity to build a financially successful universe in the DCU. I would just say that. Now, how people interpret these movies and what they actually mean and their characters and so on and so forth, that's another discussion. But based on that, I would say I'm not concerned about a Supergirl movie or what her film will look like or what other films are going to look like, whether we reached peak corniness or not. I feel like foundationally it might not age as well, like I said, but this set the tone moving forward. So anything a little more or anything a little less, like we know where we stand. I feel like the only concern I guess we would have would be the darker character, which would be Batman, who James Gunn, he speaks very unsurely about when he speaks about it, because he's definitely not keeping Pattinson. That's his
Oh no,
choice.
Pattinson's going to be separate, which is always, I hate when motherfuckers do this.
But this part of the conversation goes back to what you were saying earlier, Kev, and what I almost touched on at the beginning. But we are getting to this point where now the actor and the position of Superman is becoming highly touted and is becoming highly conversational around who and what iteration of Superman we're getting. It's falling into the Batman realm now. I'm curious to see how that moves forward.
If he gets Batman wrong, bro, you can forget it, because that's what's going to actually piss people off. In my opinion, if you have too many unserious moments with a Batman movie, it's not that he's going to be done.
His initial words are he doesn't want a campy Batman and things of that. Like it's like, well, you can't because this isn't Adam West. But
yeah, so
he's also mentioned, because he was asked, he did some interview that's now circulating. I don't know where the interview was because I didn't care, but he was asked, so are you going to do Superman 2? And his answer indicates that we are probably going, before we get another like standalone, and I put that in quotes because this wasn't a standalone Superman movie because we had to juggle a bunch of other stuff. But I don't think that Superman's next venture is going to be solo. It feels like it's going to be World's Finest. And I'm really interested with where Batman is going to sit tonally, because I feel like you can't do Matt Reeves Batman because it just tonally it just doesn't fit. And you can't.
There's a way to do it, but you don't want to try to fit that puzzle piece together.
I feel like we are going to get like an animated series-esque Batman, because it feels like that's about as far as you can go in the direction of being dark that will still fit with what they've laid out with this film. I think it's going to have to be something along the lines of the animated series, which I think is a great thing because that's my favorite.
The biggest point I wanted to bring across besides, saying just talking about the film and what we think about the characters themselves, well, concerning comic book movies, look and sound play a heavy role in what distinguishes like good or bad a lot of times and what's happening in these scenes.
Hmm.
So just based on look and sound and the reception that this thing is getting, I don't. It may not necessarily like how I said before with how we all judge the actors for certain roles, like Batman and Superman now, may not necessarily be what we think, but based on the reception, because the sound and the look, it's going to go over how it's going to go over anyways. Uh, I just think we're kind of just stuck in a limbo of, regardless of what the actual truth is concerning comic book accuracy in film, we're kind of just at the mercy of the audience,
The mercy of the
not the
audience.
people actually making the product itself.
Mm.
We're going to be stuck getting what we get, and people who have valid opinions or critiques about what we're actually getting probably won't be heard.
Oh well, yeah.
So,
Now,
so
right
the,
now,
the,
no.
the adjustments
Yeah,
that would need to be made to save or salvage what we would want out of the story in the next upcoming films will be ignored or be added in a film as a meme,
yeah.
Well, I
like
feel
No,
like
I
the
agree with that.
monkeys in the pocket dimension,
Yeah,
which
but
I also think is a double-edged sword, because a lot can be said about these blind reviews and everybody rating this thing 100 out of 100, 10 out of 10, the best comic book movie I've ever seen. I can name 10 comic book movies right now that are better than the Superman 2025, but that's a different conversation.
well, I think that based on that, that's a good stopping point, because I think our next conversation, in which we get into Man of Steel, when we more of dipping back into that and what Snyder was trying to accomplish and how we feel about that movie, in his universe in general. It'll
if I can
break.
say real quick, because I've been positive on this, what happened, some of what happened with Zack Snyder is really unfair. Having done the research after watching Man of Steel the other day and kind of like live reacting to it, what happened to Zack Snyder was really unfair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very sad.
And I can't wait to actually talk about the like behind the scenes studio stuff, because
Hmm. Yeah.
there's some egregious stuff that took place.
Yeah, it's that, and
Nasty.
and I actually, my personal opinion, I blame the fans. Um, but we'll get into that, the next time we come together. But that's what's coming next. So as you can see, you got a couple of guys. Well, one guy that actually loves the film, is looking forward
Whoa,
to.
whoa, 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 whoa,
Okay,
whoa, whoa.
likes the film. Likes the
To be
film.
clear, yeah, I like it. Yeah, specifically, I like it.
Okay, likes the film. Looking forward to what's next, but hesitant about Supergirl. You got another one who, actually, James, you really didn't say whether you're looking forward to anything. Are you looking forward to anything?
I'm curious as a fan because I love DC and their main staple of superheroes in the Justice League. Love
Mhm.
it. Grew up on it. I would be remiss, or I would be lying to say that I'm not interested,
Mm.
but excited. I don't know,
Yeah.
because regardless of what we getting it.
Yeah. And then you got the last one, which is me, and I am 2 feet out the door. Um like hand reaching back, and hand reaching back is like peeking in the door to see, whatever's coming next. And if that doesn't sell me, I'm out. With no
I mean,
no
but
apologies.
y'all, Jason Momoa is going to be Lobo
That don't mean
in
nothing to me.
Supergirl.
That
Like
don't mean nothing to
they
me.
going to make $1 billion, right?
No, actually, that does mean something to me, in the fact that he is not a excellent actor. Yet is he a actor who is friendly with fans and like people's fan favorite? Yes. And I will never take that away from him. But if we're talking somebody that's going to compel me to feel some sort of emotional undertones and things in movies or shows and stuff, he's not that guy. He just seems like a really great guy, who we would all love to meet and interact with and shake hands and take a photo with. Like, that's as far as it goes for me. How I feel about him as a person and what I think of his acting ability are two different things. But
Well, yeah, man.
Billion dollar Aquaman movie,
He's
billion dollar
famous for
Lobo
being
movie.
big and strong.
yeah.
That's what he's famous for.
Yeah, and
Big
good
and
looks,
strong.
and good looks. That good, like he can look really like pretty boyish or really rustic pretty. Like it's a real, it's a thing that not many people can pull off. And people love it. Like, people love it. But anyway, I think that sums up the episode for tonight, man. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining in on this discussion. I want to thank the audience if you've made it this far. Please do check out our other episodes on our YouTube channel, The Ascended Nerd Universe, for the Ascended Nerd Podcast. So please do check us out. Check us out on TikTok. I am The Ascended Nerd, and you can check out the other TikTok, Ascended Nerd Universe. You can also look up Slingshot. Was it 00 or 2
Yep.
zeros? Yeah, for James. Kev does not have a active TikTok, but once he does, we'll definitely be shooting him his information to you guys as well. But yes, this is the Ascended Nerd Podcast. We thank you for joining us, and we will catch you guys later.